463 steel polychrome red seal kings. How did we get here? And why are we here is maybe a better question. It's very straightforward in the start. We're playing a ghost deck, we're on a low difficulty, we can just play a flush here and get through. And then we can pick up a joker just to make sure that we can sail through this. So now we can also do the big blind in one hand, and then we pick up our next very important piece. We might as well grab the voucher as well, because we are going to be buying loads of things through this run. Then we add this nifty spectral card that allows us to clone a joker. Then we pick up the greedy joker, and now we can just flush our way to victory. Hopefully in one hand every round, because the more money we have, the better. This is going to be very precise, because soon we have to spend everything we have to buy a pretty cool starting combo. And the invisible joker is a critical part of that. Now we play the other 2 rounds just so that this guy will be active when we run into the next ante. And the goal here is to create as many of the same card as possible, and I want to have a deck with absolutely nothing else. So we need to create the perfect card and clone it a million times. And to do that we need the help of some very special cards that should arrive now. So we sell these 2, then we can clone the invisible joker, which is now active. Then we buy a brainstorm. I think I have to sell the right joker first, else it will just clone another invisible joker and we will have a huge problem. Then we find Perkeo, however you pronounce his name. We reroll, buy a blue seal, reroll, buy a baron, and I have 1 Balatro dollar left. I don't really need the blue seal, but it's the only consumable I can find in this shop. I could have maybe picked up something earlier for the same price and still been able to reroll for the baron, but it's easier this way. When we arrive in Ante 4 we can buy an Emperor which has a Hermit anyway, so buying some upgrades for cards here helps, but it's now mostly about just printing money. Now for me things are still really spicy because I have cash, but I only have 1 king in my hand, so I still don't really have any multiplier. The brainstorms will add 30 just as they are, but that's basically it. I have a glass card, a mult card, but not much else. I also need to remember to flip my 2 jokers, whether I'm cloning things or if I'm going for score. But when we arrive in the shop here we can reroll loads of times and we can find an aura card so we can get an effect on something. I'm looking for polychrome, but I probably have to gamble on many cards to find that. But the way this works, if you don't know, is the brainstorms, the 3 cards on the right, they copy whatever card I have all the way to the left. So the effect of the guy on the left now, he will dupe a random consumable, which is my cards on the top right. And finally we have the cryptid, which will create 2 copies of a card I have in my hand. And if I can dupe those consumables, I guess you see where this is going now. We also found a free juggler, which is just 1 more hand size, very nice. But now we can just test, clone a couple of cards, see what happens. Now I don't have the card type I actually want. I have some steel kings, but they really need to be polychrome, and they also need to have a red seal to reactivate so they can go through the baron a million times, because that's what he's doing now. He's being reactivated by the brainstorm cards. When I finally get a polychrome card with the aura, and a red seal that I found in Ante 8 after many rerolls after the small blind. We now have the perfect card, so the king has a 1.5 times multiplier, the steel effect has that as well, and the polychrome has the same thing, and the red seal means the card is played twice, so all that happens twice, and then that runs through the baron 4 times currently, and we can probably scale that up some more. A mime would be incredible, re-trigger the abilities of my cards in hand. We will come back to him though. The deck is quite far from only the 1 perfect card, we have a lot of things to purge. And we have options to remove cards. The problem now is that if I start duping a consumable that is not decrypted, I cannot clone as many cards. So there's a trade-off. I did find a few natural negative jokers in this, but they are quite rare and they are not the useful ones. However, after the small blind in Ante 9, we can reroll to get an ectoplasm card, which we can now dupe. So we can fit in the mime, which would be amazing. But if I go too hard on the ectoplasms, which I of course had to do, I now have a hand size of 3 cards, meaning I have to use cryptids every single round, which is very ineffective. Now I'm using more cryptids than I can spawn, so the entire plan is useless. And there is also this neat trick with the ectoplasm. If you go for one more, you end up with no hand at all and it's an instant loss. So back to the drawing board. And now if we actually use this properly, we can fit in a blueprint which will do the same thing as the brainstorm, copy a joker. So we can now run everything through the Baron one more time. We're hitting 36 E's. There are more invisible jokers to clone something good, but then I have to sell everything else so I don't risk cloning something useless. Now we have 4 brainstorms, a blueprint, and the Baron and the Mime. So this is now the strongest setup I've seen in my runs at the very least. And we're running with only 27 cards in hand. I could have made so much more with cryptid stacking, but even with this tiny hand size, we have 104 E's, so there is potential in this. We can go very, very far. More invisible jokers at this point though are basically useless because I have to sell one of the cards I used to clone one of the cards I already had, and there's a risk that it will be just worse. Other risks are focusing so hard on cloning you don't read the possibilities and you blow 220 Balatro dollars out the window. On the plus side, the score is fine and we can just print more money and it's like it never happened. There is a slight problem though. We run into the plant, debuffing all face cards, and what have I built my entire deck around? The one truly perfectly useless card, my Chrome Steel Red Seal King. Some of the other cards have also survived, so we will have to work on purging them harder. Since there is now no hope of surviving this, let's just fire off all the cryptids and see where we land. 276 cards, 160 debuffed useless cards in hand, so for science I pressed play, and this took 5 minutes and 23 seconds to play out, reactivating the dead cards over and over again, only to score a massive 66,000 points. So this is the most tragical hand I've ever played in this game. But now I know the problem. We can go back and we can dig for a solution, print even more cash, reroll forever, and surely there is something that will save this. Like this, the perfect man, Mr. Boss Blind Disabler, that will save everything. Cool. I also spent some more time printing money with the Temperance cards, but also with golden cards and the Mime, so we're just rolling through half the hand, reprinting cash, so we can keep rolling for things that will make this go even more wild. So I made it to ante 18 with this setup, but I have used all my cryptids and I have less cloning capability with only 2 brainstorms. So now that I have the solution for the boss, I will not actually make it to the boss. So we have to again science up something better. I know the plan with Mr. Boss Blind Disabler, Lucador, however you pronounce his name. And then just more cryptids, not all in on the cash. Alright, Mr. Plant Face, I know you don't like faces, but we are now back with the perfect counter, my blessed boy, that will disable your horrible ability, make the deck playable, everything is live. We clone a couple of kings. The critical part now is to use exactly the right amount of cryptids so that I still create more than I spend. Else we are just in a death spiral where I will eventually run out of cards, but the longer I live, the bigger I can still make the deck. But the further we go, the more cryptids we need to use every time, unless I find a better Joker setup. 54E when we need 51 is good, but somewhere around ante 19 it seems that now I've reached the threshold. I can either blow all the cryptids to make a big hand, or I can try to live as long as possible, gain more cryptids, but I will slowly lose them over time because I'm now using more than I can create. So I chose to go further for a bigger total deck score rather than just waste it all on one giant hand. And pretty much instantly we have the next problem. I have another Lucador in the store, which is amazing because I could use that to disable the head, which now debuffs every heart card, and that is of course all I have. But I have already also run out of cryptids. So even if I had a way to disable the boss blind, I don't have enough cards to make it through. So this one ends with 300 cards, 299 of them kings, annoyingly enough. So we go again, and this time I hopefully know what I'm doing. I decided to accept death at the plant, so I will not bring my gardener. I skipped him in ante 7, but the blessed boy shows up again in ante 14, and now I'm close enough that it makes sense. So we bring him and we go harder. Before this experiment, I have never been past ante 14, so this is like uncharted territory. I'm learning as I go. And I'm sure if you're watching, you know a way to do this better, so you can let me know and I can maybe double the deck again. So this might be my new favorite Joker, just for how he keeps coming back and saving me when I need him the most. I have not seen the voucher that allows me to re-roll a boss blind in this seed at all so far, and I've been to Ante 24, so we kinda have to rely on this guy. Meanwhile, the high card hand is up to level 70. The hands are now playing so slow that I have time to go cook in between or whatever. So the burning score is becoming a more and more accurate representation of my PC trying to handle these cards. What would I be hiring the cards for? 89 kings, I can't think of a single use for those guys. They would need to have the smallest kingdom of all time in order for them to fit into this deck, which I assume is the kingdom that they all share. But things are looking a lot better now. We have 111 cryptids. I don't think I have anything else in that pile. And this is another interesting boss, the Serpent. So we always draw 3 cards, regardless of how many I play or discard. So I can actually use that to build my hand bigger than it's normally allowed to be, so I can save a few cryptids. So we run into a boss that is actually helping me go further in the game. That's interesting, but not what I would expect. So thank you, Mr. Serpent. Your reward is being incinerated with the rest of my PC. On the state of the deck, a few cryptids later, 291 cards now. I keep finding blueprints and cool things that I would like to bring on this journey, but I very much can't because we need our blessed boy to deal with the boss that would otherwise make this completely impossible. Every single card debuffed. 283 debuffed, dead, entirely useless cards. And all I have to do to fix this is sell my only son, my clown son. I guess it's a sacrifice I can live with. And I need to now fire off enough cryptids that my hand size is only 8 cards, but I need to blow the cryptids to make it 31 to get a big enough score. So we are now rapidly declining the cryptid stack, but we shall see how far this can go. The scores are still reasonable, like I'm close. I'm not burning too many cards as far as I can tell. I'm now lagging just putting away the deck, so there is a problem here, and there's going to be a bigger problem very soon. Steel Joker. We do have a couple of steel cards in the deck, I suppose, but it feels now like the shop is taunting me with things I would like to add, but I don't really have room for, because what would I get rid of? I need the brainstorms to clone more cards and to duplicate the mime effect in play. To make sure that the Invisible Joker clones something that we are actually going to use, I need to sell my negative, because if I clone another juggler, one more hand size, or one brainstorm that will multiply everything a billion times, there's a very clear winner here. We could also have duplicated anything else, but we got lucky and we have one more brainstorm for more madness. I should really have played the same amount of cards, so this was comparable, but we have gone from 70 E's to 94 E's. The numbers have lost all meaning to me. I'm no longer at the screen while the hands are playing anyway, it takes so long. So I can pretend to be a real, effective human being in between, get some stuff done, and I'm sure there's not gonna be any problems at all with me not paying attention enough. High card level 100 is a nice bonus, and I did also roll another cryptid. 453 cards at this point, but I have already burned through everything I have. So this is now going to end very soon. But a backup cryptid and an ectoplasm. Okay, we could ruin this completely. I can't even ruin it because I have effects on all my cards, so I can't play it. Nice. I guess we try the Steel Boy then. He also keeps coming back. We could sell the brainstorm we got recently. There's no way I'm cloning enough cryptids to make it very far anyway. We can just throw this dude in and see what happens. A side note here as well, when the numbers of brainstorms changed, I was trying to do the math on how many less cards I could play but still make it, so I had the most amount of cryptids available. As a lazy, normal internet person, of course I let an AI do the job, but the calculations are kind of interesting to look at least. And for the Steel Boy, I opted to still go for the Mime. I know I have way less cards, but reactivating him many times made sense. The other option would be to reactivate the Steel Boy for a different number, but either way I would not have survived much further in this run. So 463 kings is the maximum I could manage. If you have any ideas how I could build an even bigger deck, let me know, that would be great, I would like to try it. If you enjoyed this, you might also like a much smaller scale experiment where I try to build a Joker combo around a terrible card. Thank you for watching.